Good morning, everyone. Good morning, dear listeners. We would like to extend a very warm welcome from the IGCC Indo-German Chamber of Commerce to our webinar today on the topic of goods and services tax. Thank you for joining us, and a special thanks to the participants from Europe who have logged in already early in the morning. My name is Sabina Pandey, and I am speaking from the Kolkata office of the IGCC. My team members Madhura Ghosh Mukherjee and Jennifer Chiodetti are with me today, together with our colleague Sana Baghdadi from the IGCC Mumbai, to bring this webinar to you all. The Goods and Services Tax, or instant form GST, is the outcome of one of the major tax reforms in India. GST was launched in India nearly 3 years ago on 1st of July 2017. And it was an important step for India, which is highlighted by the fact that its launch happened during a historic midnight session of the Indian Parliament. And one of the main objectives of GST was to simplify the tax collection and make business transactions easier. GST has replaced a number of other taxes such as central excess duty, octroi, additional customs duty, service tax, and so on. Many companies who deal with GST matters on a daily basis come across some related practical questions, especially during this time of lockdown and delays due to the corona restrictions. Therefore, we are happy to have with us today our speaker, Mr. Bhaskar Thakur from Kolkata. Mr. Thakur is a chartered accountant with 2 decades of experience in indirect taxation. He is presently a managing partner of his own firm, PT Associates Management Consulting in Kolkata. Our webinar will have 2 parts. First, Mr. Thakur will give his presentation for about 20 minutes, and the second part will be reserved for your questions. Please post your questions during the webinar in the chat, and we will share them with the speaker. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to take on all questions today, but we will forward the same and we will take them on afterwards if you let us know your queries. Thank you, everyone, and now over to you, Mr. Thakur.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you, Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, for giving me this opportunity. I mean, last 3 months have been, we all have been into lockdown situation, and probably from 1st June, the unlock things have started. So I know there are a lot of questions, with respect to the couple of months the business was stopped. And so in this particular session, we would take you through, couple of initial policy level decisions which have come initially, and then followed, of course, by a lot of changes which government had made in over a couple of months' time. And then, of course, we'll then take up whatever practical questions you have. I'd like to answer all your questions. So next slide, please. Sana, I think I'm not being able to see the slide.
Oh, just a moment.
Yeah. So in the first slide, what we are talking about is a transitional issue. I would just like to add one thing. Maybe certain slides would be little technical. So there are certain people out here who would like to participate in the technical discussion, and then of course there would be certain general slides as well. So I mean, wherever there is a little technical slide, I would request for those who are into this kind of thing, they'll understand more about this technical aspect. So first and foremost is a transitional provision. So transition provision is something where when we move to a GST, whatever credits, whatever we had with respect to early regime, that was service tax and excise, that was allowed to be transferred under the new regime. So with respect to this transitional provision, there was a time frame to take this credit within 2017 only. And thereafter, the government, a lot of people were not able to take this particular credits on some technical glitch because of IT. So government had extended this to 31st March 2020, only for those people who had having a technical glitch. This entire matter of technical glitch, whether it was a technical glitch or it was not a technical glitch, was debated, since only those clients having a technical glitch were allowed to take a credit post 27 December 2017. Matter went to the courts, and Delhi High Court had held that look, this amendment of, or this date of 27th of December 2017 you have given in the rules, there is nothing in the act, and hence you as a point of limitation, you should allow this credit till 30th June 2020 to all the taxpayers, because this is a credit which were in their hand prior to the GST regime, and they should get the benefit of that. After all this happened, why I'm telling you, because all this happened in this last 2-3 months. So after this Delhi High Court judgment had come, government changed the provision in section 140 of the act retrospectively, and whereby they ensured that even the date whatever has been given in that act, that has to be taken care of. So by virtue of making this particular amendment, what had happened, that they overruled the judgment of Delhi High Court, wherein the court had said that nothing doing, since there is nothing in the act, rule cannot go above the act. And by doing this retrospective amendment, this particular this particular anomaly was blocked by the government. And this particular judgment, this particular change was made in the Finance Act 2020. Next slide, please. So against this judgment of a Delhi High Court, the department has taken this to a Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has given a stay to the Delhi High Court judgment, which means that those people who have not filed a Tran 1 within 27th of December 2017 will not be able to get this Tran 1 credit. So now we have to wait till Supreme Court decision, whatever it comes out. If it allows on merit, then only this would be allowed. Otherwise, those people who have not taken who do not have a technical glitch and have not claimed this benefit till 27th of December 2017, this Tran 1 credit is not available. It's a very unfortunate decision, but let us hope what Supreme Court comes out with this. Next slide, please. The second policy level dispute which arose under GST within last 2 months was the treatment of GST on director remuneration. So everyone probably here knows that if there is a director remuneration paid by a company, then the company needs to pay GST on a reverse charge. Now there was a debate whether that reverse charge would be applicable to all the directors, or it would be applicable to the directors who are taking that as a salary. Because it is very clear under the GST law that where there is a employer-employee relationship, there cannot be a GST on that. So again, government on 10th of June 2020 clarified that, well, when you pay under the Income Tax Act, when you deduct TDS as a salary on director remuneration, then of course you are showing that as a salary, being an employer-employee relationship, and of course there would not be a question of GST on that. But wherever you are paying this director remuneration, particularly to independent directors, the company is not showing that as a salary, and hence there would be a GST implication on a reverse charge. Next slide, please. So this is what they have clarified in the next slide, that there are two different treatment, 194J and 192. So 194J under the Income Tax Act talks about technical services and all that, professional technical services. So wherever there is 194J involved, of course, there would be a GST implication, but where there is a 192 under the Income Tax Act, which deals with the salary, there would not be any question of GST under reverse charge. Next slide, please. So these were the two policy level stuff which I wanted to discuss. Now we move on to certain situational issues which probably people would have faced in the last couple of months, that what to do. So let me explain a few. I mean, I've come across few questions as well on all that. So I thought, let me make one small slide so everyone would be on one board. So let us take one example. The first example is like I receive advance in the month of March prior to lockdown, but I didn't read invoice. So and ultimately the transaction did not took place. So what would be the treatment under the GST? So in this situation where you have received advance, but there is no corresponding supply and corresponding invoice, so of course there is no question of paying GST. But since on advance you have already paid GST, how would you get this money back? So the simple answer to that would be that in the subsequent months, whatever it could be, whether it is you are filing a March return or April return or whatever return, you issue a credit note giving reference to the invoice. Sorry, in the first instance, there is the issue of invoice as well. So giving a reference to the invoice, you issue a credit note. So moment you issue a credit note, your liability for the subsequent month in which you are issuing credit note, it automatically gets reduced. For an example, let's say my liability for the month of April is 100 rupees based on whatever invoice I have raised in the month of April. But I'm raising a credit note with respect to invoice which I have already raised earlier, say for example in the month of March, where I had paid 10 rupees on advance. So when you are filing a return for April, this 10 rupees would be deducted from 100 rupees, and actually you would be supposed to pay only 90 rupees. So this is a concept of a credit note, whereby you issue a credit note and your liability for the subsequent month get adjusted. Now a question do arise that, okay, look, for the subsequent month, I don't have any liability. What I'm supposed to do? So in that case, if you do not have any liability in a subsequent month, whatever amount you have already paid as an excess, you can claim that as a refund by filing form RFD01. And there is one option wherein one of the option in RFD01 is excess payment of tax. You can click that option and get this particular refund. The second point I'm talking about is a case which is little different, where I've received advance, but I'm not raised invoice. So in this scenario, instead of a credit note, there is a refund voucher concept in the portal. You issue a refund voucher, and similarly, this refund voucher will knock your liability off in the subsequent month. Or if you do not have a liability, then you go for a refund under RFD01. Next slide, please. So again, this situation will arise where, prior to lockdown, you have issued goods, and then certainly you've come across a situation that my customer is not accepting that goods, and the goods are returned. So in this scenario as well, the credit note is an answer. What I had just explained in my earlier slide, the process is same. You have to just issue a credit note and adjust your liability, whatever you have paid at the time of billing, against subsequent month by issuance of credit note. And if you do not have a liability, go for an excess refund by filing RFD01. Next slide, please. So, I mean, this slide is just talking about the genesis, which is like with the COVID-19 prevailing in India, the government had come out with this taxation and other laws ordinance, whereby various timelines were extended. So this is just a basic provision, and in the next slide I'll explain what are the timelines and how they penalty or interest, late fee and all that. Next slide please. So I mean, if you look into this table is talking about the dates. This table is also talking about late fees and interest. Let me explain you one by one. So on the left hand side, there are three different classes of registered person. On the top left corner is the class where your turnover in the preceding financial year is more than 5 crore. The second one is between 1.5 crore and 5 crore, and third one is below 5 crore. All the three have got a different treatment. Now, as far as the rate of interest is concerned, they have said for the first class, which is having a turnover of more than 5 crore in the preceding financial year, there would be a rate of interest of 9% instead of 18% after 15 days of due date. So I'll give you some example here. My return for March 2020 was due on 20th of April 2020. Now, if I do not make a payment, because today return is linked to payment, once you make a payment, then only you can file a return. So if I'm not making a payment and if I'm not filing a return till 30th of April, of course, I don't have to pay any kind of interest. But beyond that, my interest meter would start and I have to pay 9% interest. So for for Feb, March, and April, of course, they have extended the revised date to 24th of June, but your interest meter is start moment after 15 days from the due date. Of course, there would not be any kind of a late fee, but if you file within this 24th of June, else, of course, there would be a late fee as well as interest. Now, for an example, if I file I'm again talking about the first bracket, which is more than 5 crore. So today the date is 24th June. So for example, if I file the return on 25th of June for Feb, March, and April, question comes: do I have to pay only additional 9% only on one day? The answer is no. The answer, this particular 9% benefit was only till 24th of June. So if you are filing beyond 24th June, on 25th of June, from the due date till the date of payment, you have to pay entire 18% GST interest, not this concessional rate of 9%. Now, of course, for the small pair, which is like less than 5 crore or less than 1.5 crore, they have given there is no interest if they file a return till the due date given, revised date given on the third column, which is for an example, Feb and March by 29th of June and April by 30th June. And similarly for the small players, of course, for Feb, March, April, of course, different dates they have given. Of course, with respect to GSTR1, which is where you record your sales transaction, they have waived everything from Feb to May if you file all your returns within 30th June. So 30th June becomes very crucial. But of course, in the next slide, I'll show for the small players, even this has been extended. Next slide, please. So I was just mentioning about the applicability of full rate of interest. I've already spoken in the earlier slide that where there would be a full rate of interest. Of course, certain relaxation they have given by that ordinance, whereby the Sabka Vishwas Legacy Dispute Scheme has been extended till 30th June 2020. Of course, this is a payment extended only. So, I mean, whosoever had opted for scheme till December were to make a payment till 31st of March, and that particular payment date has been extended till 30th June 2020. Similarly, of course, there was a concept, government wanted to come out with the e-invoice concept that they have deferred till 1st of October 2020. And of course, for composition and small players who were filing their returns, the dates have been extended till 30th June for the payment and the returns and all that, which is appearing in this slide. Next slide, please. Again, for a few more relaxation in terms of e-way bill. So suppose you had generated some e-way bill prior to 24th of March, what would happen to that? So they have extended this particular validity of that e-way bill till 30th June. And similarly, like LUT, so I mean those export houses who export goods under letter of uh, undertaking, they were to give LUT with respect to each consignment of exports. So the government has allowed the same LUT which was prevailing for the earlier period to continue for this particular financial year till 30th June 2020. Certain relaxation, again extension of date for filing TDS return. Of course, this is applicable to only government companies. This TDS provision, deduction of TDS, has not been applied to the private or other firms till date. Refund claim. So suppose you had some time limit and time limit was expiring between 20th of March till 29th of June for refund filing. The same has been extended till 30th June. So one can of course file a refund application if the time period was expiring between this particular range. Then 30th June one can always file that refund application. Similarly, GST audit and annual return date for 18-19 had been extended till 30th September, which was earlier 30th June. And even for job work returns, which you file in ITC 04, so quarter ending, which you have to file every quarter. So for quarter ending March 2020 has been extended till 30th June. Next slide, please. So on 12th of June 2020, 40th GST Council meeting was held. And they had given these few recommendations. And yesterday only a notification have come out with, and they have accepted almost all the relaxation which was discussed in the GST Council meeting. And whereby I mean, there was a lot of relief for the small players in terms of extension for the date for May, June, July as well. So even a small players having a turnover of less than 5 crore can now file the returns for May, June, July till 30th September. No interest, no late fee. They had also come out with one window where I mean, there was if you have not filed your return from July 17 till January 20. So if there is no liability in your return, then today from July 17 till January 20, you can file your return. And of course, if there is no liability, they would not ask you to pay any kind of late fee. And they have also come out with one provision whereby maximum, because today your late fee is around, I guess, 50 rupees per day per return. Now this would be capped maximum to the extent of rupees 500 per return, not beyond, for the returns which are from July 17 to March 20. So those who have not filed the return and having a liability can file this with a maximum cap of 500 rupees late fee charges till 30th September. Next slide, please. So these are also little important changes which of course they have brought for companies as a whole. The first one is talking about where today as per the law you can take credit only to the extent of what is appearing in GSTR 2A. So for readers who have no idea about GSTR 1, 2A and all that, let me just explain you in 2 minutes. So if today, if I'm filing my return under GSTR1, GSTR is one where I'm recording my all the sales, then my buyer will be able to see whatever GST I have paid in his GSTR 2A. And as per the law, whatever amount is being reflected in GSTR 2A, the person would be entitled to take a credit to that extent. So they have made one amendment that this particular credit you can take maximum to the extent of 110% of whatever is appearing in 2A. So suppose I make a bill to my client and I don't file my return for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. But I have raised my invoice, my client has paid the money to me, but I have not filed my return. So in that circumstances, since I have not filed my return, I have not paid GST, my GST, whatever I have shown on my invoice and collected from the client, will not appear in my client's GSTR 2A, which means they will not be able to enjoy that particular credit. So there was a provision that, okay, so whatever 2A, the credit is shown, you would be able to enjoy only 110%, nothing beyond. And this was for a large corporate, it was a huge exercise. So they have given one small window of 6 months, and they have said that okay, this 10% deviation and all that kind of thing for the 6 months we don't want, and let this relaxation continue for the 6 months period, which is Feb to August 2020, and you can take credit whatever you are showing in your books of accounts rather than matching with your 2A, which is like your vendor has paid or not. So this 6 months relaxation has been given as a welcome relaxation given by the government for this COVID-19. Of course, I mean, a lot of people would have witnessed that government was very fast in giving these whatever refunds, wherever refunds were stuck, be that be GST refunds or be that be customs drawback and all that. So it was a very clear direction, and wherever the refunds were pending, I've personally seen that various instances the refunds have come very fast. So there was a provision they have made it that to expedite and give all kind of eligible refund on an immediate basis. Furnishing GSTR 3B and 1 with EBC. So it is like for a company, they cannot file the return without the digital signature. But for this particular period, which is April 20 to 30th September, they have given this option to pay by EBC. EBC is nothing but OTP will come on your mobile and you can file return. So you don't require a digital signature. Just with the OTP, one can file the return. The fourth bullet is again very important, which was like we were asking for the last 2 years to the council, which was like if you have a credit balance, if you have a credit cash balance. So say for an example, today when we talk about GST, we have a state GST, we have a central GST, and we have a integrated GST. All these three GSTs are different and having a different cash ledger. So I may have a central GST cash ledger, I may have an integrated GST cash ledger, and so the state GST cash ledger. Now suppose today I have a liability of 100 rupees and under IGST, but I have a cash ledger whereby my money is there in C and S. I was not able to pay that I because I didn't have that money in my I cash ledger. It was lying in C and S cash ledger. So I was not able to set it off. Now, of course, this PMT09 form they have issued recently, and by virtue of which this set off is allowed. So from 28th April 2020, this PMT09 is a welcome step to allow whatever cash in whatever ledgers you have, whether it is CIS across, you can use. Again, facility of filing GSTR 3B nil. If you are having a nil GSTR 3B through SMS also, you can file this. And maybe like where you had a lot of litigations pending in customs and excise service tax, they've come out with one notification whereby they've said that they will start personal hearing on a virtual mode. But of course, things have not started. But soon, this virtual PH would start. And again, I mean, this COVID-19, I would say it's a very, very good uh, transformation in indirect tax regime, whereby sitting at home, one would be able to do a personal hearing, and there would be absolute transparency in the litigation system. Next slide, please. I'll just quickly go through this is again a little technical slide. Quickly go through it. Some, I mean, clarification given the government via certain circulars and notification again in last couple of months. One, of course, first one is with respect to refund related. So I was just earlier was explaining about 2A concept, which is like reflection of duty paid by my vendor. So for refunds, they had clarified and they've said that, okay, if you show whatever refund based on whatever credit you have taken, that will not be allowed. Whatever is being reflected in your 2A, which is your vendor has made a payment to the portal, that amount of refund would only be allowed. So this is something where if you cannot reconcile with your vendor about what he has paid or not paid and it's not being reflected in your 2A, of course you would not be able to claim that as a refund wherever we are talking about refund of accumulated ITC, which is again subject to certain conditions. Next slide is about some time relaxation with respect to merchant export, which they have given, of course, in this situation. So, so in this slide, this is kind of a, of course, this just a slide I'm just discussing with everyone, uh, and there's nothing in the law. It's just, I wanted to highlight something here. So, as per the law, I cannot take credit with respect to whatever services I'm giving to our employee. That is very clear in the law that if I am incurring any expenditure for my employee, I will not be able to take a credit of that. That is section 16 of CGST Act talks about. Now in this COVID situation, a lot of employers like us who have incurred, I mean, a lot of expenses for masks or sanitizers or at a workplace or sanitizing. So many, I mean, money would have been spent, of course, for the employee, but of course for the business as well, because that is for the business. So there may be a debate with respect to this particular aspect, that whether these expenditure wherein you have paid for sanitization or work sanitization or your workplace, factories, whatever you have done, or you have taken some consultancy on that, or I mean, whatever expenditure you have incurred, and you have paid GST on that, whether that credit of GST would be allowed, whether that GST would be considered as for the employees, or whether that GST would be considered as for a business. So I personally believe that government should come out with one small amendment on this and should allow these kind of COVID expenditure. I mean, giving a very clear direction that these should be a business, this should be treated as a business expense, and the credit should be allowed. Else tomorrow, maybe department from any side can say that, look, this is for your employee, and as far as section 16 is concerned, these are for the employees only or their benefits only, and these credits would not be allowed. Next slide, please. So in this COVID situation, again, while because this lockdown was very sudden. I mean, probably in a couple of days' time, we came to know that there's a lockdown. So there would be a situation where my in supply chain my goods have been lost, or it got destroyed, or you can't even find that out. It may so happen with some clients. So what happens to that? So the law is again very clear on that. That let's say if your goods get lost, or it is stolen, or it's destroyed, or you give that goes as a gift or sample, free sample, whatever. the corresponding credit with respect to that particular goods is not allowed. So for an example, I manufactured one goods and it got lost. So the law says that, okay, to manufacture that particular goods, whatever services or raw materials you have bought to manufacture that, and you have paid GST on that, that would not be allowed. So again, my submission here would be that again for the COVID situation, keeping that pandemic in mind, relaxation should be given by the government to allow these kind of credits in a deserving situation where somebody's goods have been lost in transit. On a deserving situation, the credit should not be denied and the credit should be allowed. So this is again one of the point which may come up, after this situation gets streamlined, and then there would be audits, and people will come out and will say that, okay, this was, your goods were lost. There's nothing in the law, and you have to reverse your credit. Next slide, please. I think I'm done with my presentation. Next few slides are with respect to certain relaxation given by customs as well. I mean, of course, we have today talking about GST only, but quickly I can just go through it about certain relaxation on customs and foreign trade policies. So again, on custom front as well, a lot of relaxation has been given in terms of extensions, or I mean, like one, I would say the third bullet, where if you are importing from some FTA countries, you have to produce a certificate of origin. So for the time being, they have discontinued. You can import without even certificate of origin. So this is a good welcome steps they have brought in customs as well. And maybe even with respect to letter of undertaking and all that, they are not asking you to give a bond. In the simple letter of undertaking, one may be able to clear this. Even in the custom provision, whatever your timeline with respect to appeal was between 20th March to 29th June, that got extended till 30th June 2020. Next slide, please. So we'll be sharing this slide, so you will be able to go across whatever small changes, whatever has been brought, and you will be, and of course after this presentation, I'm there for any kind of questions you have. Again, with respect to foreign trade policy, because of this pandemic, as you know, that foreign trade policy was generally for 5 years, and this 5 years was getting expired on 31st of March 2020. So because of this pandemic, they have entirely extended this particular exercise of making a new policy and all that, and they would continue with the old policy till 31st March 2021. Next slide, please. So again, with respect to a lot of benefits which you get on the exports like MEIS or ACIS, all these has been extended. I mean, where your dates were expiring between this pandemic period, which is perhaps Feb to May, they've extended till 30th June or 30th September in some case. Next slide, please. And same is with respect to EPCG, whether your export obligation period being expiring between this period, or that has been extended. Thank you so much for the patient hearing, and if you have any questions, I'm there to give answer.
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. So we have certain questions. Shall I start with the first one?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. The first question is, what will be the GST implication if the date for service invoice has been delayed due to the lockdown? So,
I mean, again, it would depend on what kind of, if it is with respect to services, of course, it will have a different implication. If it is with respect to goods, it will have a different implication. So if it is with respect to goods, so I mean, as far as the point of taxation is concerned, It is when you raise the invoice, the liability of GST do start. So for an example, you had to supply goods in the month of March, you could not. Now you are doing in the month of, let's say, June. Of course, you are going to raise the invoice in the month of June only, and your liability would start from that particular date only. So if you are not raising an invoice, there is no question of any kind of a liability. Until unless you are not raising invoice, the liability will not come. Now, if it is with respect to services, it will depend on what kind of service it is. If it is a continuous service, say for an example, rental, where I have to, on a monthly basis, I have to charge rent. So these are the continuous services. In that case, irrespective of whether you issue invoice or not, the GST liability would trigger as far as the point of taxation is concerned from the date. So for example, if there is a rent of March and I have to raise the invoice on 1st of April, whether I raise the invoice or not, my liability for March will trigger, and of course I have to pay GST. Next question, please.
Okay, if an event was cancelled due to lockdown, along with the cancellation of the service invoice, what will happen to the advance amount?
So I just explained earlier that if something has been cancelled and you have raised the invoice, you have already paid the money. So in the subsequent month, when you're filing a return, just file a credit note, adjust your current year liability with that credit note. And if you do not have any kind of a liability in the subsequent month, go for a refund of whatever amount you have paid. But it's always better to go for a credit note, because I mean, you can raise your credit note within 1 year, or maybe, till 20th of October, which is due date of filing September return. It's always better to go for a credit note, so that your subsequent month where you have actual liability to make a payment, you knock it off and you pay only balance payment, instead of filing for a refund as well. This is again an option where if you have paid an excess and you are asking for a return of that excess money, you can file a RFD01 form clicking excess payment. But I would again suggest go for a credit note and knock it off against your further liability. Next question, please.
Okay, suppose a customer has returned the delivered goods because he does not need them anymore. So how can this situation be handled?
Sorry, can I come again, please?
Yeah, it's suppose a customer has returned the delivered goods because he does not need them anymore. So how can the GST be handled in such situations?
Yeah, again, same thing I had given in my earlier presentation, that where the goods are returned, one can just issue a credit note in the subsequent month and knock it off against the your liability. So for an example, in the month of March, I raised an invoice, and in the month of April, the goods come back to me. So what I can do is, like, in the month of March, I raised the invoice, I delivered the goods, and I made a payment of GST. But subsequently, in the month of April, the goods came back. So when I'm filing my return for the April, whatever liability I'm having for that particular month, by issuing of credit note by myself, I'm knocking off that liability to the extent of return goods against my April liability, and I'm filing my return. So virtually, I have not paid duty on the goods which have come back.
Okay.
Next, please.
Okay, the next one is what is your observation on tax refund for excess tax?
So see, again, it is a relative question. When you are talking about a tax refund, there is only under two circumstances you get refund under the GST. One, if you are if you are exporting goods out of country, and whatever credit you have incurred on your input side, you get that as a refund. That is as per section 54(1). The 54(3) also talks about in a situation where you have a inverted duty structure. For an example, On my output, the liability is, let's say, 5%, but on my input side, liabilities, the GST rates are 18% or 28% or 12%. Then there's an inverted structure. In that circumstances, also I get a refund. But if you're talking about that, look, my credit is 1,000 rupees, my liability is 700 rupees, so there is a 300 rupees excess, you don't get credit of that. That excess you can carry forward n number of years, but you don't get refund of that. That credit is lying in your electronic credit ledger. You can enjoy that against your subsequent liabilities. Next, please.
Okay, suppose e-way bill has expired while the goods are in transit. So how can this be handled?
So again, government has given a relaxation whereby, if your e-way bill post 24th of March 2020 till 30th June, they have extended this till 30th June. So there is no question of expiring of, this e-way bill in this particular COVID situation. But if you are talking about a situation prior, which is not this during this pandemic period, I mean, you can always issue a fresh e-way bill, cancelling the earlier e-way bill. So there is no, I mean, there is a validity of 72 hours for a e-way bill. And if you have not supplied material, always you can cancel that and issue a fresh e-way bill against that invoice. But for a pandemic period of this 3 months, they have extended. So whatever, e-way bill generated prior to 24th of March are deemed extended till 30th of June 2020. Next question, please. Any other question?
Hello, Bhaskar. 1 second, Sabina here. Maybe Madhura was disconnected. I'm not sure. We have number of more questions.
Okay.
Just taking one.
So, I mean, you can ask because nothing is coming on my screen. Okay.
Yes. Hi, I'm back. Sorry,
Oh,
it
you're
was a
back.
little.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
No issue.
So this. Okay, all right. So now the next question is an export order that could not be shipped due to the lockdown can be shipped only now. So how? What are your thoughts on this?
So again, as I was explaining earlier, export order which was not shipped earlier is being shipped now is nothing but a supply of goods. So if supply of goods did not happen earlier, and if you are doing it now, show in your current return whenever in whatever month you are exporting.
Okay. Okay. All right. The next one is in case the goods have expired or destroyed during the lockdown and cannot be sold anymore. So how to deal with that?
I had given one specific slide on that. That let's say if your goods get destroyed in a lockdown, okay, the law is very clear that in that situation, whatever raw material credit you have taken and you have manufactured that goods, you lose that credit. So you have to reverse that credit for the goods which you have manufactured which get destroyed. And that is where government even had suggested that government should come out with a kind of a clarification with respect to these kind of destroyed goods, stating that for, of course, like goods being destroyed because of this pandemic situation or maybe lost in transit because of this pandemic situation, the credit should not be reversed. But as on date, the law is very clear that if your goods get destroyed, fair enough, you don't have to pay any kind of duty on that. But whatever credit you have taken to manufacture that goods, you have to reverse.
Okay, okay. So we have many more questions. We'll see how many we can take up within the stipulated time. So the next one would be what is the extended date of Trans 1?
Right, like so the Tran 1, as I was explaining earlier, the Tran 1 the date was extended till 20th December 2017. Thereafter, if you had a technical glitch post 27th December 2017 in filing Tran 1, then the date was extended till 31st March 2020. Now, what is a technical glitch? Technical glitch is like you tried to file Tran 1, but you could not. So you have to establish that you tried to file Tran 1 through a IT system. So there was, of course, a nodal officer out here. You approach them and he would check and he will see to it whether you're from your IP you had tried to file that Tran 1 within 27th December, within 31st March 2020. So if there was a technical glitch, of course, yes. If it was not, then of course the court have extended till 30th June 2020. The Delhi High Court had given this judgment, but recently Supreme Court has overruled that and given a stay on that particular judgment. So as on date, you cannot file Tran 1 if you have not a technical glitch and if not filed within 27th of December 2017. But sorry, just one more line. Hopefully, Supreme Court will come out with a judgment, because at the end of the day, it is your own credit which was there in the earlier regime. Of course, you would be able to take that particular credit as well in the new regime as well. So hopefully, we have to wait till the Supreme Court order comes out.
Hello, Bhaskar, Sabina here. There's one
Yeah.
interesting question that has just come in. The question is, if we pay director's remuneration to our director who is in Germany and he provides services in Germany, whether GST is applicable for out of India service.
So it's not out of India. So please try to understand that the director who is paying who is giving a service to an Indian company is giving a service in India. Okay. So the question would be whether there would be a reverse. So on that director service, there would be, of course, a reverse charge mechanism. GST would be applicable. Now, this is what they have recently clarified. If the director is on roll, so if the director is an employee of that company, and how would you determine whether he is an employee of the company or not? Because under the Income Tax Act, if you are paying a director remuneration and who is an employee of the company, then under section 192, you are deducting TDS. So if you are not paying as a salary to a director and he is not on the roll, then in that case, under Income Tax Act, you are deducting TDS under section 194J as a professional or technical services. So this is what they have clarified, that if the director is on roll and TDS being done under income tax under 192, then there is no GST under reverse charge. Else there would be a GST under reverse charge.
Thank you. I think Manjora, we can take 2 to 3 more questions and then
yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's one more question is, what may be the reasons for blocking credit by the department?
See, department generally do not block credit. Now, what happens that where today in this technology under GST, department is aware of that who is supplying to whom. So today, let's say, if I have bought a goods from a vendor who is being investigated by the department for supplying false bill. So there are cases where people are supplying false bill, which means there is no service, there is no supply of goods, they are just issuing invoice and other party is just taking a credit. So if department has come across this situation that the mail ID transaction has taken place between the two parties, so even so in that particular circumstances, they will block your credit until, and so it's a blockage of credit, and of course the investigation is on. Until you come out scot-free from the investigation, your credit would be blocked. So we have come across practically that even these powers have been exercised, even in the genuine cases. And in that case, people have people have no other alternative to either than to go to the High Court and explain the bona fide and put pressure on department or take a judgment from the High Court by filing a writ that this credit cannot be blocked. So to you answer your question, the credit are not generally being blocked. Only on these circumstances where department finds that there is a bona fide intention of taking unnecessary credit, they block the credit.
Okay. So I think we can take one more. Can we take one more, Sabina?
Yes, please go ahead. Last question.
All right. Okay. Okay. The last question would be, what about the ITC credit on employees provided food in the premises?
So I was just again saying that where as far as section 16 is concerned, which deal with ITC, which very specifically says that employee related expenditure on which you are paying GST, that is not allowed. So so when you talk about any kind of credit which is in relation to employee, that is not allowed. But in this pandemic situation, I mean, a lot of expenditure employers have done to keep the business running, but of course that is for the employee, so that should be allowed. So to answer your question that whether employee related credit would be allowed, answer is no.
All right. Thank you very much, Madhura. Thank you, Mr. Thakur. I think we learned a lot in the last almost 1 hour. We have gained many insights into GST, which I hope were relevant for our members and on a practical side. Thank you all participants for your patient listening. Do send us your further questions on GST, which we will share with Mr. Thakur, or any other query if you have on business related to Germany and India, be in touch with us. Thank you once again and have a good day. Thank you all. Bye. Bye, Mr. Thakur. Bye, Sana. Bye, colleagues and audience. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.